It was a quiet night on the edge of Outpost 47, a small human colony on a dusty alien world. The twin moons hung low in the sky, painting the ground in pale silver light. Most people were asleep, but one man was still awake, a mechanic named Daniel Hale. He had just finished another long day fixing cargo haulers and was walking back to his small shack when he noticed movement near the trash bins. At first, he thought it was just the usual pack of stray animals that roamed the outpost. They were small, thin creatures, something between dogs and lizards, that had learned to live off human scraps. Daniel had grown used to them. He often left a bit of his dinner out each night. It made him feel a little less lonely. He set his old tin plate down by the bin, filled with leftovers, some bread, stew, and a bit of meat. "Here you go, fellas," he said softly. "Don't fight this time." He smiled, turned around, and started walking back. But then he heard a sound, not the usual growl or snarl, but something else. A soft whimper. It sounded like crying. Daniel froze. He slowly turned his head and squinted through the dim light. 3 small figures were crouched near the plate. They weren't animals. They were children girls. Their skin had a pale blue tone, their eyes large and glowing faintly in the dark. Their clothes were torn rags, and their faces looked tired and hungry. Daniel took a cautious step forward. The girls froze, like wild animals ready to run. One of them, the smallest, held out her hands to protect the others. "Please, no hurt," she said in broken English. Daniel's heart sank. "I'm not gonna hurt you," he said gently. "Are you a lost?" The oldest girl looked up. She seemed maybe 12, though it was hard to tell. "We hide," she whispered. "No home. No food." Daniel slowly knelt down, keeping his hands open. "It's okay. You can eat. That's for you." The 3 girls hesitated, then began to eat the food, careful and quiet, like they were afraid it might vanish if they moved too fast. Daniel watched them, feeling a lump rise in his throat. They were thin, too thin, and their eyes carried that hollow look of someone who had gone too long without safety. "Where are your parents?" he asked softly. The middle girl shook her head.
"Gone.
People took them." Daniel felt anger mixed with sadness. He had heard rumors, alien workers taken away by slavers when the mining companies pulled out years ago. Some families had been left behind. Maybe these girls were from one of those colonies. He couldn't just leave them there. "Listen," he said carefully. "I've got a small place nearby. It's warm. I have more food. You can stay the night if you want." The girls looked at one another nervously. Then the oldest nodded. "We come." Daniel led them to his shack, a simple metal hut with a flickering heater and a worn couch. He gave them blankets, poured them hot soup, and watched as they ate like they hadn't in days. For the first time, he saw a small smile on the youngest girl's face. "You got names?" he asked. The oldest replied softly, "I'm Rena. This is Selly. And that's Mira." Daniel smiled. "Nice to meet you, Rena, Selly, and Mira. I'm Daniel." After they finished eating, the girls curled up on the couch together, wrapped in the same blanket. Within minutes, they were asleep, safe, warm, and finally at peace. Daniel sat nearby, watching the firelight flicker across their faces. He felt something deep inside, something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Over the next few days, Daniel helped them clean up and found clothes that fit. He taught them small things, how to use utensils, how to fix little tools, even a few words in proper English. They were quick learners, especially Rena. Word spread through the outpost about the stray alien kids the human mechanic had taken in. Some people laughed. Others whispered that he was crazy. But Daniel didn't care. Every evening, he'd come home to 3 smiling faces and laughter that filled his empty house. One morning, a patrol ship from the local Peace Corps landed at the outpost. They were searching for missing refugees from a nearby destroyed colony. When they saw the 3 girls, they recognized their markings. Rena hugged Daniel tightly before leaving. "You save us," she said, tears in her eyes. "We never forget." Daniel smiled sadly. "Just promise me you'll stay safe. And eat well." They boarded the ship and waved as it lifted into the sky. Daniel stood there for a long time, watching until the last trace of the ship disappeared. His heart ached with both pride and loss. A week later, a small package arrived at his door. Inside was a simple pendant made of silver and blue crystal, alien craftsmanship. There was a small note written in shaky English. To Daniel, from your stray girls. Thank you for feeding us. Thank you for seeing us. Daniel held the pendant in his hand and smiled through misty eyes. That night, he placed an extra plate of food outside, just like before. But this time, he whispered, for my girls, wherever they are. And under the twin moons of the alien world, one human's small act of kindness had reached across the stars, a reminder that even in the vastness of space, humanity still mattered. Days turned into weeks after the alien girls left with the Peace Corps. The outpost felt quieter now. Daniel missed the laughter that used to echo through his small shack. He missed Rena's careful questions about engines, Selly's curiosity about every human gadget, and little Myra's innocent giggles when she played with his old tools. Every evening, Daniel still placed a plate of food outside. Not because he expected anyone to come, but because it had become a habit of the heart. It was his way of saying that kindness still had a place in the world, even a dusty, forgotten one like Outpost 47. Then one cold night, something strange happened. He heard a hum in the sky, a deep, steady vibration that shook the air. Daniel stepped out of his shack, squinting into the darkness. A ship was descending, sleek, silver, and unlike anything he'd seen before. It landed quietly just beyond the outpost wall. A bright blue light scanned the ground, and a hatch opened. Daniel took a cautious step forward. For a moment, he thought maybe it was another patrol ship. But then, 3 figures appeared at the top of the ramp, tall, graceful, and wearing shining armor marked with symbols he didn't recognize. Then he froze. The smallest figure stepped into the light, and his heart nearly stopped. It was her, Rena. Only, she wasn't the scared child he remembered. She was older now, stronger, her hair tied back, her blue skin glowing faintly under the light. Behind her stood Selly and Mira, smiling shyly, holding a small box. Daniel. Rena's voice carried across the cold night air. We came back. Daniel blinked, stunned. I thought you'd be halfway across the stars by now. Rena laughed softly. We were, but we never forgot you. They walked toward him, and for the first time in months, Daniel felt warmth rush through him. Selly handed him the box. Inside were 3 glowing stones, small energy cores, pure and humming with power. These are gifts, Rena said. From our people. You fed us when no one else would. Now we feed your world. Daniel didn't understand at first, but when he connected one of the cores to his outpost's power grid, the lights came to life brighter than ever before. The struggling colony, once dying from lack of fuel, now had enough energy to last decades. The townspeople gathered in shock. Where did this come from? They asked. Daniel just smiled. From friends. That night, as the twin moons rose again, Daniel sat outside with the 3 alien girls. No, not girls anymore, but young women who carried the future of their people. Rena looked at him seriously. Our home is rebuilding now. The humans helped after you told the Peace Corps. You saved more than just us, Daniel. You saved a colony. Daniel's eyes softened. All I did was share my dinner. Rena shook her head. No. You shared your heart. For a long while, they sat in silence, listening to the soft hum of the night wind. Then Mira pointed at the stars. We named one after you, she said proudly. Daniel looked up, and there it was, a faint, new light twinkling in the northern sky. That's beautiful, he whispered. When their ship finally lifted off again, Daniel waved until it vanished among the stars. The glow from the ship reflected in his eyes, bright and proud. He turned back toward the outpost, hearing the hum of working engines, laughter from people, and power flowing strong through cables once dead. Everything was alive again. Daniel chuckled softly and placed one more plate of food outside, right where it all began. You never know, he said with a smile. Maybe someone else will need it tonight. And as the wind carried the scent of food through the night, far above in orbit, 3 young alien sisters watched from their ship, smiling, their eyes shining with tears. Because one human's small act of kindness had changed not just their fate, but the fate of a whole world. Humanity, once again, had proven why it was worth remembering. Months passed after the 3 alien girls, Rena, Selly, and Mira, left once more for the stars. Outpost 47 had transformed since then. The power cores they gifted continued to run without fail, lighting up homes, powering machines, and bringing new life to the colony. For the first time in years, people had hope again. But Daniel still lived the same quiet life. He spent his days repairing machines and helping newcomers settle in. At night, he would sit outside his shack under the twin moons, staring at the faint star Rena said they named after him. It glowed softly among the thousands of others, and every time he looked at it, he smiled. Still, a small ache lingered in his heart, the kind of ache that comes from missing people who had once filled your world with light. One evening, a convoy of traders arrived at the outpost. Among them was a tall alien with silver markings on his arms. He noticed the pendant Daniel wore, the one the girls had given him, and his eyes widened. "You know the Sisters of Loom?" the alien asked respectfully. Daniel frowned slightly. "Sisters of what?" "The ones who restored the refugee colonies," the alien said. "They lead a new alliance now. 3 young leaders. They call themselves Rena, Selly, and Mira of House Loom. Heroes to our people. They said a human saved them once. A man who gave them food when no one else would." Daniel froze. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. The trader continued, "They speak your name with honor. Daniel Hale, the feeder of the lost. Your kindness started a legend." The man bowed and left, but Daniel sat down slowly, stunned. The 3 little girls he had once found hiding behind a trash bin were now leaders, saviors even. That night, he couldn't sleep. He stepped outside and looked up at the sky. The star named after him seemed brighter now, pulsing faintly, almost alive. Weeks later, a message arrived through the colony's communication system. It was encoded with alien symbols, but when Daniel played it, a familiar voice echoed through his small room. "Daniel, it's Rena." Her voice was older now, steadier. "We built a new colony, free and strong. We call it Haven. We tell our children about you, the human who shared his food and changed the stars. We want you to come visit. You have a place here always." The message ended with a soft laugh. Myra's, Daniel realized. He sat there in silence for a long time, then chuckled quietly to himself. "Guess I can't say no to family." A month later, Daniel packed his old toolkit and boarded a cargo shuttle headed toward the new system marked Haven. When he arrived, the sight took his breath away. The world was green, alive, full of light and laughter. Alien children played in the fields, and humans walked among them as friends. Great crystal towers rose from the earth, powered by the same blue cores Rena had once given him. Then he saw them, Rena, Selly, and Mira, waiting at the landing pad. They ran to him, smiling wide. "Daniel," Rena said, throwing her arms around him. "You came," he laughed. "Wouldn't miss it for the universe." They showed him around their city, schools, gardens, homes, all built on unity between humans and aliens. Rena explained, "We made it this way because of you. You taught us what kindness means." Daniel didn't know what to say. His chest felt heavy, but in a good way, full of pride, warmth, and love. That evening, as the sun set over Haven, Daniel stood on a balcony overlooking the glowing city. Rena joined him quietly. "You once left food for stray animals," she said softly. "Now your kindness feeds an entire world." Daniel smiled at the horizon. "I just did what anyone should do." Rena shook her head gently. "No, Daniel. You did what humans can do, see others not as different, but as worth saving." As the night deepened, the stars came out, and one shone brighter than the rest, casting a faint blue glow across the world. The same star that carried his name. Daniel watched it and whispered, "You girls did well. I'm proud of you." Rena smiled beside him. No. Daniel, we're proud of you. And as the wind carried the sound of children's laughter through the air, Daniel realized something powerful. One small act of kindness, given freely, could echo across time, across worlds, and even across species. He looked up one last time, the starlight reflecting in his eyes, and said with a grin, "Maybe humanity isn't just about surviving, maybe it's about sharing." Under that endless alien sky, Daniel Hale, the human who once fed the strays, had become part of a legend written in the stars. ChatGPT can make. Years passed on Haven, the shining world born from one human's act of kindness. The colony had grown into a bustling city of both humans and aliens, living side by side in peace. Children learned both languages, markets traded in both worlds' goods, and every year, the people celebrated the Day of Sharing, in honor of the man who had once fed 3 starving alien girls. Daniel Hale never liked being called a hero. He always said, "I just gave them dinner." But everyone else knew it was more than that. It was proof that humanity's strength wasn't in its ships or weapons, but in its heart. Daniel lived in a small house near the edge of the Great Gardens. He spent his days teaching young mechanics, both human and alien, how to fix engines, build tools, and use what they had to help others. He never charged a single coin. He said teaching was the best way to repay what life had given him. One afternoon, Rena came to visit him. She was no longer the scared girl hiding behind trash bins. She was now the elected leader of Haven, respected by thousands. Her hair shimmered silver under the light, and her eyes were calm but strong. "You should see the festival," she said with a smile. "They built a statue of you this year." Daniel groaned softly. "Oh no. Tell me they didn't make me look too serious." Rena laughed. "Actually, you're smiling, with a bowl of food in your hands." Daniel smiled back, shaking his head. "Well, at least they got that right." That night, Rena invited him to the main square. The festival lights sparkled like 1,000 stars, and children danced around the statue, a bronze figure of Daniel offering food to 3 small alien girls. At the base, an inscription read, "A small act of kindness can feed a world." Daniel felt something warm in his chest. He hadn't realized how far one choice could reach, how a simple moment could ripple through generations. Selly and Mira joined them soon after. Mira was now a teacher for the youngest children, and Selly worked as a pilot, ferrying supplies to other refugee colonies. The 3 sisters had changed so much, but to Daniel, they would always be the hungry little girls who once whispered, "Please, no hurt." As the music played, a group of children ran up to Daniel. One little boy tugged at his sleeve and asked, "Is it true you saved the Sisters of Loom with just a plate of food?" Daniel knelt down, smiling. "I didn't save them, kid. I just didn't walk away." The boy frowned in confusion. "But why help strangers?" Daniel looked up at the sky, where Haven's twin moons glowed softly. "Because once someone helped me. I was lost once too, and someone shared what they had. That's what makes us human. We pass kindness forward." The boy nodded thoughtfully, then ran back to his friends. Later that evening, the festival ended with the lighting of lanterns. Hundreds of glowing spheres floated into the night sky, carrying messages of gratitude. Daniel stood beside Rena, watching them rise higher and higher. "You know," he said quietly, "when I first met you 3, I thought you were strays. I didn't know you'd end up teaching an entire world what compassion means." Rena smiled softly. "And we didn't know humans could be so gentle. You changed how our people see your kind, Daniel. Now, when someone says human, they don't think of soldiers or traitors. They think of you." Daniel chuckled. "That's a dangerous reputation." As the last lantern drifted upward, a soft breeze brushed against them. Rena glanced at him and asked, "Do you ever miss Earth?" Daniel looked thoughtful. "Sometimes. But maybe home isn't where you're born. Maybe it's where you're needed." Rena nodded slowly. "Then Haven is your home." And from that day forward, everyone called him Elder Hale, the quiet man whose kindness became the foundation of their world. Years later, after Daniel passed peacefully in his sleep, the people of Haven mourned him not with tears, but with stories. They told their children about the lonely mechanic who once shared his food with 3 starving alien girls, and how that small act changed the course of history. Above the city, the star that bore his name shone brighter than ever. Every year, on the day of sharing, the people of Haven would look up at it and whisper the same words: "Kindness is never wasted." And far across the galaxy, the legend of the feeder of the lost continued to spread, the story of one human whose heart was big enough to feed the stars themselves. Many generations had passed since Daniel Hale walked the dusty roads of Outpost 47. Haven had grown from a single refugee colony into the heart of a thriving alliance, a place where humans and aliens lived together, building ships that reached new worlds. To most of the young ones, the story of the feeder of the lost had become legend, a tale parents told their children before bed. Some believed it was just a story. Others swore it was true. But to the Sisters of Loom and their descendants, it was sacred history. Every year, on the day of sharing, the people of Haven gathered at the statue in the main square, the bronze figure of Daniel holding out a bowl of food, surrounded by 3 small alien girls. They cleaned it, decorated it with flowers, and told the old story again. Once, the elders would say, there was a human who fed the strays, and found 3 hungry alien girls instead. His kindness changed the stars. But this year was special. It was the 100th anniversary of the founding of Haven. The celebration was larger than ever. Music echoed through the streets, lights shimmered in the sky, and ships from other planets arrived to join the festival. In the center of the square stood Rena's granddaughter, Ira, now the High Chancellor of the Alliance. She was tall, with her grandmother's blue skin and bright human-like eyes, a living symbol of the peace Daniel had begun. Ira stood before the statue and raised her voice. Our ancestors came here lost, hungry, and afraid. But one man, one human, showed them kindness. He gave them food. He gave them hope. And from that hope, we built a world. The crowd went silent as she continued. Let this day remind us that no act of kindness is too small. A single plate of food saved 3 lives, and those lives saved billions. Then, the sky darkened slightly, and a single beam of light broke through the clouds. The crowd gasped as a glowing star appeared overhead, brighter than any other, shimmering blue and gold. The astronomers had no explanation, but the people knew. Iris smiled softly. He's watching us, she whispered. Our human. Later that evening, as the festival lights faded, Ira walked alone to the old mechanic's house, preserved exactly as Daniel had left it. His tools were still on the table. His worn-out jacket still hung on the wall. A small plaque read, Daniel Hale, the first friend, the feeder of the lost. Ira sat quietly, running her hand along the old workbench. You'd laugh if you saw us now, she said softly. We have ships that can travel between galaxies, food enough for everyone, and peace that lasts. All because of you. Outside, she placed a small plate of food on the doorstep, just as Daniel once did long ago. It was a simple meal, bread, stew, and a bit of meat. She smiled. For you, old friend. As she turned to leave, a faint shimmer of light glowed over the plate, a tiny flicker, like starlight reflecting on metal. It lingered for a moment, then faded into the night. That same night, in the great observatory above Haven, scientists reported something impossible. The star named after Daniel had begun to pulse with rhythmic light, like a heartbeat. Some said it was just a natural phenomenon, but others believed it was something more. They said the star was alive, that it burned brighter every time someone shared food or helped a stranger, or showed kindness without asking for anything in return. And so, even as centuries passed, the legend lived on. Travelers from distant worlds came to Haven to see the statue, to hear the story, and to learn what true humanity meant, not power, not conquest, but compassion. In the end, the story of Daniel Hale wasn't about one man. It was about what it meant to be human. 1,000 years later, a young alien boy stood at the statue, holding his mother's hand. Mama, he asked softly, was Daniel real? His mother smiled gently and looked up at the star still shining above. If he wasn't, she said, then humanity made something even greater, a story so kind that it became true. And high above the world he had helped build, the star that carried Daniel Hale's name never faded. Centuries had passed since Daniel Hale first walked the dusty paths of Outpost 47. Yet his legacy was stronger than ever. Haven had grown into a sprawling interstellar hub, a shining example of peace and cooperation between humans and countless alien species. Ships from distant galaxies now docked there, bringing knowledge, goods, and cultures together in harmony. At the center of the city stood the statue of Daniel, the feeder of the lost. 3 small alien girls crouched beside him, reaching for the plate of food he offered. Every year, new generations gathered around it to hear the story of how one human had changed the destiny of an entire world. On this particular day, a group of young humans and aliens were being led on a tour by Ira, Rena's granddaughter. They stopped in front of the statue, eyes wide. This man, Ira began, was not a hero because of his strength, or his wealth, or his skills. He was a hero because he cared. He shared food with those who had nothing. And in doing so, he gave hope where there was none. One of the human children piped up, but it was just a plate of food, right? How could that change anything? Ira smiled. But that one plate of food did change everything. It saved 3 lives. Those lives built a world. And that world now reaches across the stars. As she spoke, the sky above Haven shimmered with the familiar blue-gold glow of Daniel's star, still pulsing gently, like a heartbeat. The children gasped. Some whispered prayers. Others simply stared, awestruck. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, explorers and traders often reported seeing the same star, bright, distinct, and unlike any other. It had become a beacon for kindness, a legend known even in distant systems where humans had never been. Ships traveling near it would often leave gifts or messages in tribute, saying they wanted to honor the human who fed the lost. Back on Haven, Ira led the children to the observatory. A holographic projection displayed images of Daniel, Rena, Selly, and Mira from centuries ago, alongside maps showing the spread of the alliance they had helped create. This is what happens, Ira said, when compassion leads the way. One small act can ripple across worlds. Daniel didn't know it at the time, but every meal he shared, every choice he made, sent waves of hope outward. Even now, we feel those ripples. A young alien girl raised her hand. Do you think he knew how big his act was? Ira shook her head. I don't think he ever cared about that. He just knew someone needed help, and he gave it. That's all. That's enough to change everything. That evening, as the twin moons rose over Haven, lanterns were released into the sky once more. The glowing spheres floated high, past the city, and toward the stars. Children and adults alike watched silently, feeling the presence of Daniel Hale in every flicker of light. Across the galaxy, explorers following the legends of the feeder of the lost reported strange phenomena, systems once barren now teeming with life, settlements that flourished without explanation, and beings who suddenly found the courage to act selflessly. It was as if Daniel's kindness had become a force, subtle, invisible, but unstoppable. And so, the story endured. Parents told it to children. Scholars wrote it down in interstellar histories. Pilots whispered it to passengers as they crossed the void. Everywhere, the legend of the human who fed 3 starving alien girls reminded all beings that no act of compassion is ever wasted. Even in the furthest reaches of space, Daniel Hale's name lived on, not just as a memory, but as a shining example of what humanity could be. A single human's heart had reached across the stars, and in doing so, had left an echo that would never fade. Beneath Daniel's star, Haven continued to thrive, and the galaxy remembered. Because kindness, once given freely, never truly disappears.